Good morning, children. Welcome to our social science class today. And today we will be revising history, chapter 4, the Delhi Sultanate. The Delhi Sultanate from AD 1206 to AD 1526. Now, during the Delhi Sultanate, we will be revising about these, how many dynasties? 4 dynasties. Okay, children. See here, we begin from here. First is slave dynasty from AD 1206 to 1290. Second is Khilji dynasty from AD 1290 to AD 1320. And third is Tughlaq dynasty from AD 1320 to AD 1414. Fourth is Sayyid dynasty from AD 1414 to AD 1451. And fifth one is Lodi dynasty from AD 1451 to AD 1526. So children, this is how the Delhi Sultanate from AD 1206 to AD 1526. See from here, AD 1206 to AD 1526. So we are going to learn about all these dynasties and we will be revising. Now, the second question arises, that is, what are the sources of information for the Delhi Sultanate? How did we come to know? So the sources of information, we have the inscriptions and some chronicles. We have the sources of information from inscriptions, means the information which is engraved on stone and metal plates, for example, copper plates, etc. And chronicles. Chronicles are written account of important or historical events in the order in which they occurred. Okay, children. So you understood? So we have got the sources of information, that is inscription is the first one, second are chronicles. So this is all we are going to revise in this chapter, children. So first of all, I will tell you the meaning of the word Sultanate. Okay. So Sultanate means a kingdom of a Muslim ruler, which is known as Sultan. Okay. A kingdom of Muslim ruler means who was known as Sultan. So that's why this is chapter, name of the chapter is the Delhi Sultanate. Okay, children. Now we have another word here. You can see slave dynasties. All dynasties there, second dynasty, third, fourth. So what is the meaning of the word dynasty? Dynasty means a line of hereditary rulers of a country. Okay? A line of hereditary rulers of a country from the same family. Okay, children? From the same family. So now I'll be sharing the screen and you all please be ready to follow. Okay, children? So here we are with the chapter, the Delhi Sultanate from AD 1206 to AD 1526. 26. And here we have the new words. Sultanate means the kingdom of a Muslim ruler, Sultan. Chalisa, a group of 40 powerful nobles formed by Iltutmish to help him in suppressing his enemies. The next word is Mongols. Mongols were warrior tribes who lived on the borders of ancient and medieval China. They were domiciled in Mongolia. Okay, children. Domicile means that is treat a specified country as a permanent home. Okay, children. Now, next word is ulemas, the men who are recognized as experts in Islamic theology. Ikta system. Ikta system, the system of giving land grants instead of cash payment for services rendered. Next word is kharaj. Kharaj means land tax. Next word is khamas. Khamas means tax levied on booty captured in war. Booty means valuable stolen things or goods, especially seized in war. That is known as booty. The last word is mukaddam. Mukaddam means the village headman. So these are the terms, new words which we will be reading in this chapter. And you should know the meaning of all these words, and it will be very helpful for you to understand the chapter well. So here we are going to learn about the Delhi Sultanate. So the Turkish invaders, who invaded our country? Turkish. So Turkish invaders were newcomers to India. And what did they do? They expanded the Muslim frontiers substantially. Okay. The Turkish invaders were newcomers to India. They expanded the Muslim frontier substantially. Muhammad Ghori died in AD 1206. See here, 1206 is the beginning of the Delhi Sultanate. So what happens? Muhammad Ghori died in AD 1206. His empire was divided among his generals. Who was the general? One general was Qutbuddin Aibak, the general of his Indian provinces. He suppressed all the other governors. Who suppressed all the other governors? Qutbuddin Aibak. He declared himself the Sultan of Delhi. And in AD 1206, he laid the foundation of Delhi Sultanate. When in AD 1206, Qutbuddin Aibak laid the foundation of Delhi Sultanate. Okay, children. Now, next what happens? His dynasty was known as the slave dynasty because Qutbuddin Aibak himself was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. So you understood? Slave dynasty was established by Qutbuddin Aibak in AD 1206 after the death of Muhammad Ghori. And he himself was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. Then next, Iltutmish and Balban had also been slaves in their early career. So we are going to revise about these sultans also, Iltutmish and Balban. So as many as 5 dynasties ruled over Delhi until Babur started the rule of Mughals. Okay, so after them, who came? Babur, and he established the Mughal rule. But here in this chapter, we are going to read about the Delhi Sultanate. So what are the sources of information? I have already told you. So here we go, the inscriptions, coins, and monuments like forts, mosques, tombs, and temples provide ample information about the history of this period. In addition to these, we have travelers' accounts and court chronicles that provide information about events and lives of kings and ordinary people. Okay, children. So I already told you inscription means words engraved on stone and or metal, and chronicle means written account of important or historical events in the order of in which they occurred. Now, next what happens? The chronicles means tawarik or an account of historical events. Chronicle means tawarik or an account of historical events. Such accounts are mainly in Persian and partially in Arabic. The authors were wise and learned men. Some of them had an official position and spent a lot of time at the court of a king. So one of them was Ziauddin Barani, who wrote Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi. It begins with the accession of Balban and comes down to the early years of Firoz Tughlaq. Minhaj-e-Siraz also wrote on the early history of the Delhi Sultanate. So there are some authors who also wrote. One of them is Ziauddin Barani, who wrote Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi, and second is Minhaj-e-Siraj, who wrote on the early history of the Delhi Sultanate. Now, sources of information, how did we get? That are inscriptions and chronicles and some travelers' account. Now, not much information about the life of ordinary people we have. That means we don't have sufficient information about the life of common people, life of ordinary people during that time. How? Why? There are two reasons. Reasons are like just now we have read about the authors, historians. They wrote excellent description of some of the major events. But there were some reasons why these chronicles failed to provide much information about the life of ordinary people. Why we do not have much information? Because of two reasons. The first reason is that these people who were writing chronicles, they held an official position. For example, Ziauddin Barani held an important post in the revenue department. Which department? Revenue department means the tax department. And their whole effort was to please the sultans who rewarded them with gifts and money. So what they used to do, they always used to write praises. They used to praise the sultan. They never used to write anything against the sultan, so that the sultan would be happy and he will be rewarding them with gifts and money. So how could they depict people's poverty and misery? So this was the reason that they could not write about people's poverty and miserable conditions. Otherwise, the sultan they might have thought that sultan would get angry and he may not give them gifts and money as reward. So this was the first reason that we do not have much information about the life of ordinary people. Now the second reason is these people, for example, Ziauddin Barani and Minhaj-e-Siraz, they used to live in cities. Where did they live? In cities. They had no opportunity of going to the villages and see how ordinary people lived there. Okay, children. So they were wanting and they were living in cities. They did not want to go to the villages, etc. They did not get a chance, we can say, but mainly they were staying in city. So that's how they did not know much about the village and see also how ordinary people lived there. So this was the second reason that we do not have much information about the life of ordinary people. Now, next, what happens? These people, for example, Ziauddin Barani, we are continuously, this name is coming again and again, historians and learned people, bias in their account. Bias in their account. The author seemed to be biased. Biased means when the authors were writing, they were biased, means they were against someone. Why and how and what, this is what we will revise here. The author seems to be biased, means they were not fair in their judgment. They were not fair when they were writing, so they were not fair in their judgment. The authors seem to be biased. They colored their account, means that when they were describing, when they were writing, so what did they do? They wrote their account with their own personal opinions. Minhaj-e-Siraj was a great admirer of Balban, and he paints him. Paints him means not the color. He paints him means he describes him. He describes him as a great administrator, free from all faults. Means he had no faults. According to him, he was a very good ruler. Minhaj-e-Siraj failed to see that Balban was intolerant of the religion of the vast majority of his subjects, that is the Hindus. Minhaj-e-Siraj showed bias against Razia Sultan because she was a woman. So here again, see, Minhaj-e-Siraj was biased, means, as I told you, he was not fair in the judgment. So he did not like Razia Sultan because she was a woman. Razia Sultan was brave and energetic, but Minhaj-e-Siraj, like other nobles, would not like to be ruled by a woman. So he did not want a ruler as a woman. According to him, women are supposed to be subordinate to men. And Ziauddin Barani was highly educated man. He knew the duties of a historian, yet he was not free from bias and prejudice. Okay, children. You can see here, this is a map here of slave dynasty during 1206 to AD 1290. And see this purple color here. And now this is the first dynasty we are going to revise about, slave dynasty 1206 to AD 1290. And the Sultan was Qutbuddin Aibak. Qutbuddin Aibak had begun his career as a humble slave of Muhammad Ghori. As you know, he established the slave dynasty. He rose to power after his master's death in AD 1206. Then he consolidated his power. Consolidated his power means making his power more stronger through matrimonial alliances. Being a slave, he had a difficult time in overcoming the resistance of his nobles and suppressing internal revolts and external invasions. Okay, children. He constructed the first Islamic monuments, the Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque, one each at Delhi and Ajmer. he also started the construction of the Qutub Minar in memory of the Sufi saint Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki. It was completed by Iltutmish. He died in AD 1210 during a fall from a horse while playing Chaugan, that is polo, at Lahore. Okay, children. So this we have learnt about the dynasty, that is slave dynasty. Okay. First ruler Qutbuddin Aibak. Now we come to the second Sultan Iltutmish, AD 1211 to AD 1236. Iltutmish was a slave. Iltutmish was a slave of Qutbuddin Aibak and later became his son-in-law. Means he married his daughter, and sensing the resentment of nobles. Sensing the resentment of noble means feeling of having been treated unfairly. Resentment means feeling of having been treated unfairly, or we can say not satisfied, not happy, do not agree, or feeling of anger. So when who sensed? Iltutmish was a slave of Qutbuddin Aibak and later became his son-in-law. So Iltutmish sensed the resentment of nobles and he created a group of 40 powerful nobles known as Chalisa or the 40 to help him in suppressing his enemies. Okay, children. So then what happens? Qabacha was the ruler of Multan and occupied parts of Punjab. Tajuddin Yaldoz was the ruler of Ghazni and wanted to annex Indian territories. Iltutmish defeated both of them. What happened? Iltutmish defeated both of them. And there were revolts in Gangetic Valley from Rajput rulers and other governors. And finally, Iltutmish defeated them all and firmly established the Turkish rule. Okay, children. Now we come to the next Sultan, that is Razia Sultan. Razia Sultan came to the throne after her father Iltutmish died in AD 1236. So that means Razia Sultan was the daughter of Iltutmish and she came to the throne after the death of her father Iltutmish in AD 1236. Being a woman, Razia Sultan had to face great opposition and rebellion from the nobles. She was very brave. She rode horses and led her army in the battlefield. She was, however, defeated by Altunia, the governor of Sirhind and the leader of rebels. She later married Altunia to recover the throne. Then the nobles, however, plotted against her. What did they do? They plotted against her and she was put to death in AD 1240. Now we come to revise about the next Sultan, that is Ghiyasuddin Balban, from AD 1265 to AD 1287. After about 6 years of internal strife, strife means disagreement, conflict, continuously fighting, angry. This is the meaning of internal strife. Okay. Nasiruddin Mahmud, the youngest son of Iltutmish, ascended the throne. Okay, children. He was, and now this, his son was, the youngest son, Nasiruddin Mahmud was pleasure-loving king. And he was very weak and inexperienced. So what happens? He left the administration to his advisor, Ghiyasuddin Balban. And all the powers of the Sultan were now in his hands. Means all the powers of the Sultans were now in Ghiyasuddin Balban hands. For 20 years, he acted like a prime minister. After Nasiruddin's death in AD 1265, Balban occupied the throne. Okay, children. He took many steps to consolidate his position. He also crushed many revolts and ruled with an iron hand. With his stern and bold policy, he created fear and respect in the minds of people. And he established peace and order in the country. Here you can see in this map here, again, Kingdom of Balban. See here, this area, this dark area, Kingdom of Balban. Now, what did he do? He also reorganized the army and posted a strong force in the northwest. The Mongols were created great trouble there. What were they doing? The Mongols were creating great trouble over there. So Balban destroyed the group of 40, which had become very powerful. And the nobles stood silently in the court. They had to kneel and touch the ground with their forehead in salutation known as Sijda. Okay, children. Now we come to the next dynasty, that is Khilji dynasty. From AD 1290 to AD 1320. Balban's successors were very weak. Balbans means after Balban, whoever was the Sultan, they were very weak. And then a grandson of Balban was murdered in AD 1290 and the Sultanate passed into the hands of Khilji. Okay, and Jalaluddin Khilji was the first ruler of Khilji dynasty. So Jalaluddin Khilji, he was the first ruler of Khilji dynasty. He sent his nephew Alauddin on a mission to conquer Devagiri in Deccan. He was victorious there. When he returned to Delhi, with fabulous riches, Jalaluddin came forward to greet him, but was treacherously stabbed by Alauddin. How he was stabbed? Treacherously. He was stabbed treacherously by Alauddin. Treacherously means to betray the trust or betraying by cheating. Okay, children, this is the word here. Betraying by cheating, betray faith or confidence of someone. That is treacherously. So what happens here? Jalaluddin came forward to greet him, but he was treacherously stabbed by Alauddin. So this was all about the Khilji dynasty. Here is the map here. You can see empire of Alauddin Khilji. Now we come to the next Sultan, that is Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji ruled from AD 1296 to AD 1316. Alauddin Khilji was a brilliant general and an able administrator. He dreamt of becoming a second Alexander. What did he dream? He dreamt of becoming a second Alexander. His conquest included annexation of Gujarat and Malwa in AD 1297, Ranthambore in AD 1301, and the fort of Chittor in Mewar in AD 1303. It was during his attack on the fort of Chittor that the Rajput women performed Johar. Johar means sacrifice. Understood? Johar means mass sacrifice undertaken by women to protect their honor. Okay, children. So, here it was during his attack on the fort of Chittor that the Rajput women performed Johar. They preferred, that means they preferred to perish in flames rather than to submit to the enemy. Alauddin Khilji needed money to maintain a large army. He raised the taxes on wealthier people, rich people. He also kept watch on the revenues collection, which was collected by the nobles. They were collecting land revenue from the peasants, from the farmers, and also from the traders. So he kept a strict watch on the revenue collected by his nobles. Now, how did he control his markets? So, control of market, what did he do? Alauddin Khilji had the ambition of conquering the whole of India. A huge army was needed to fulfill such ambitions. The soldiers had to be fed well. Therefore, he fixed the prices of food grains, cloth, and other essential commodities. The merchants had to sell all commodities at fixed rates. If they failed to carry out these orders, they were punished. Although this was done to benefit the soldiers, but ordinary people also were benefited from it. Okay, children. Now the conquest of the south. Alauddin conquest of the south. Alauddin Khilji was the first Sultan of Delhi who conquered the southern India. He entrusted his military commander Malik Kafur with the task of the conquest of Deccan between AD 1309 and AD 1313. The Yadavas of Devagiri, the Kakatiyas of Warangal, the Hoyslas of Dwarsamudra, and the Pandyas of Madurai were subdued. Means they were under their control. The rulers of Dwarsamudra and Warangal gave all their wealth and elephants to Malik Kafur. Okay, children. And the rulers of southern India were allowed to rule on promise of paying the tribute regularly. Paying the tribute regularly. So tribute means they had to pay some amount of money regularly. That is called a tribute. During Alauddin Khilji's regime means very strict government he had. He was a very strict sultan. So during his regime, the Mongols raided the Sultanate of Delhi a number of times. Means many times Mongols raided Delhi. But what happened? But Alauddin Khilji was successful in keeping the Mongols under check. Means he had a perfect control over them. They could not conquer Delhi. Alauddin Khilji's empire was as large as that of Emperor Ashoka. Okay, children. And Ghazi Malik, a general, what did he do? He got Khusro Khan, the last ruler of Khilji dynasty, murdered. So, the last ruler of Khilji dynasty was killed, and he then occupied the throne of Delhi. Who occupied the throne of Delhi? Ghazi Malik occupied the throne of Delhi. Okay, children. So you have understood and learned about the Delhi Sultanate, and we have revised all 5 dynasties. These are Slave dynasty, Khilji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid dynasty, and Lodi dynasty. And here we have, during this period, the Delhi Sultanate time from AD 1206 to AD 1526. The sources of information we have the inscriptions, chronicles, and some travelers' account. So children, this is all for today in this chapter. Thank you for watching. See you in the next class, and we will continue the revision of the same chapter, chapter 4, the Delhi Sultanate. Till then, take care, be happy, and have a nice day ahead. Bye, children.